So we're going to give you all sorts of actionable advice, as well as show you how the application process works. So you have the highest probability of getting into VC Lab, which is a quite difficult program to get admissions to just because of the volume of applicants. Someone literally wrote in, it's like, I don't want to apply to any place that won't allow me to get in. And it's not, we want to accept everybody. Okay. Our goal is to help anyone who wants to launch a venture capital firm and fund have the best chances to do so by reducing the barriers to getting into the venture capital industry, which are extremely high. But because the program is free and because the program has, almost a 90 NPS, which, just to give you perspective, is unheard of for the volume that we have. It is truly unheard of. So because of those things, we have literally thousands of applicants, and it is challenging. So if we have 2,000 or 3,000 applicants, right, and we want to create a program of roughly 300 people and 250 firms, which is where we see that if it gets much bigger than that, it's unmanageable for our team to handle, and it's not really great experience for the end users. So by default, like, that's roughly a 10% acceptance rate. And it's not because we don't want to accept more. We do want to accept more. It's just because we can't run a program with more. So one of the things that does happen is that someone will apply for, let's say, cohort 13 or 14, and they don't get in. They may come to an event like this and learn how to improve their application. They get further along, and then they apply to the cohort 15 or maybe cohort 16, and they do get in. So the first thing that I would just say about joining VC Lab is we want to try and help everybody. If for some reason you do not get into a specific cohort, try again, and we'll do our best to get you into a next cohort. And hopefully, if you listen to advice on whatever we're discussing today, you'll be in a much better position to get in the future. So let's talk about the advice, the tips, and things like that. I think my email's open here, so I'm going to quit that so it's a little quieter in the background. So let's talk about some tips and tricks to actually get in to the cohort. Then I'm going to show you an actual application and how it works and how we process it. And then we're going to turn it over to your questions. So we'll start with tips. We'll show some applications and how it all works. And then we'll go through your questions. Okay. So on the tips front, it's super important to understand that being a venture capitalist and launching a venture capital firm is one of the hardest things that a human being can do on the planet today. Period. End of story. And you may say, well, how hard can it be, right? It can't be that hard, right? Well, it is that hard. It's on the level of like building a rocket by yourself or scaling Mount Everest. It's probably harder than those things. And it's kind of simple when I say it in the following way. You'll be like, oh yeah, I can understand why. So you're basically going out to wealthy people. These are called limited partners. And sometimes it's wealthy organizations. And you as an individual have no track record because you're starting something new. Even if you've been an angel investor, even if you've been a venture capitalist before, you're starting something new. And so you have no history doing this new thing. Okay. And you're going to these rich people, these limited partners, and you're saying, hey, I want you to give me large sums of money so that I can go invest that money into things that no one knows. No one knows what these things are because it's blind, right? So you're essentially saying, trust me with your money, because you're a money manager, to invest in blind stuff that no one has any idea of. And that's very difficult to do, right? A lot of people are like, why should I trust you? Like, I'm giving you lots of money here. Are you really going to invest it? Are you really going to do what you say you're going to do? Is this really going to happen? Is this really going to work out? Are you really going to get the returns you're forecasting, et cetera? And it's a huge leap of faith for a limited partner to give you money to blindly invest it in things in the future. So that is a very big, difficult ask. And that is the foundation of venture capital. That trust that you have to create between yourself and these wealthy individuals or organizations, the limited partners. And they are your customers, right? You're not really working with founders. The founders are the product. The limited partners are the customer. So now part of the other problem of how it's difficult is your customers are these limited partners that are giving you money to invest blindly into startups. And the product are these entrepreneurs that you're backing who have a huge percent chance of failure. Your average venture capital portfolio, 70% of the things that you back, that you believe in, that you give money to fail, okay? 30% go to some sort of level that hopefully get returns. And if you're lucky, and I'll say that a lot of times it's luck, one or two of the companies that you invest in will return the fund many times over, but you might do 20 or 30 investments that basically don't return that much or return nothing. So now if you get 100x on one deal, but you've done 20 deals, it might only be a 2 or 3x on your entire fund, right? So your goal as a VC is not to get a bunch of ones and twos, because if you get ones and twos in that 30%, your fund will lose money. Your goal is to find that one or two deals that are going to get 100x. So then your whole fund might get a 2 to 10x once everything normalizes with the other results. So it's very challenging, right? It's very challenging to raise the money. It's very challenging to manage the money. It's very challenging to deploy the money. And so you really have to be an exceptional human being to be a venture capitalist. And that's what we're looking for in the admissions process. Who is this exceptional outlier that can handle what it takes to be a venture capitalist? And let me give you a sense of how hard it is in other ways, okay, with other numbers. So as I mentioned, we'll take in, between 2,000 and 3,000 applicants. Let's say the average is 2,500. I think right now for cohort 14, we're at 2,500 applicants at this moment, okay? And some more will come in because we'll continue to accept co-founders and other general partners for the first couple of weeks of the program. The program's starting tomorrow. So around 2,500, okay? And as I mentioned, we'll let in somewhere around 250 firms, so call it around 10%, okay? So we're already filtering to the top 10% of the people that apply, letting them into the program. Now, if you look at those 250 funds that come in, only about 50, so around 20%, maybe sometimes to 70, so 25%, 20 to 25% finish the program at all, okay? The other, 80 to 75% drop out. And the single most common reason for someone dropping out of the program is they can't do it, right? They can't, they can't keep pace with the program, right? That's a problem. And they can't raise the money. That's another problem. All right. So 80%-ish, 75 to 80% of all the people that come in and make it to the bottom of the first funnel fail in 3 to 4 months of the program because they can't do it. And these are the top 10%. So now you're down to maybe the top, call it 2%, right? So now 2% make it to the end of the program. And by the end of the program, I would say you have pretty good chances of launching your firm and your fund because you have commitments from limited partners, you have a team, you have a good thesis and all this stuff. And 20% of those people fail, okay? So you have everything that you could possibly need to launch and build an enduring VC firm. You've got, again, good thesis, commitments from limited partners, a team, materials, like everything. And 20% of those people fail. And by the way, unless you launch a venture capital firm and fund, we do not consider you a graduate of the program. So if you finish the program, but you never launch, we remove you from the community. We remove you from as an alumni because the mainstay of what we're trying to do is launch a firm and a fund. And if you don't get there, we just take you out. So we check in with you when you finish the program every, couple months to 3 months, depending, until you close. And then we check in less frequently after that, but we're checking in pretty regularly until you close. And as I said, about 20% of people that finish the program have everything ready to go, fail to close. And that's because closing itself is extremely difficult, right? You have to get commitments from limited partners, line up the team. And then when everything is ready to go to close your fund, and you're like, I am ready to close, I am ready to go, people pull out. Team members pull out, limited partners pull out. Sometimes the leaders pull out. They're like, oh, this is so hard. I can't do it anymore. And all sorts of reasons. There could be a sickness in the family, a personal tragedy, every kind of thing happens. But also it's just super hard. So people just give up. And so I want to stress that, it's a pretty difficult process to get a firm and a fund off the ground. Now we're making it as easy as possible, okay? And we're still below 2% of people that say they want to do it, get to the finish line and actually do it. And that's why, to some extent, we're pretty diligent and thorough in the admissions process, which we'll cover in a moment, because we really want to make sure that you have what it takes to hopefully be in that, less than 2% of people that actually are able to launch a fund. So let me talk first about some of these things that we look for, and then we show you how we do the evaluation. So obviously, if you don't get in and you give up, that's a pretty bad sign right there that you're not going to succeed, because you're going to face so many incidents of failure as a manager that if you're like, oh man, I've had a little setback and I'm going to give up, your likelihood of succeeding is incredibly low, right? Because you're going to face so many setbacks launching the fund that, like, setbacks are the norm. So if you don't get in and you are like, well, I'm not going to, this is too hard, I'm not going to try and launch a fund. Yeah, you're never going to launch a fund. right? The first thing that you need to succeed as a venture capitalist in 2024 in the world is like an incredible amount of grit and determination, right? Because you're going to have limited partners pull out. You're going to have deals that you want to do that say no. You're going to have all sorts of setbacks launching your fund. And you just got to get right back up, dust yourself off, and try again, right? You can't take no for an answer. So the very first thing that I would say for anyone here is really take a look at your grit and determination and make sure that you can, have that type of can-do attitude that no matter what setbacks you're facing, you're going to dust yourself off, get right back up, and make it happen, right? You can't take no for an answer, right? It's the same thing in entrepreneurship. If you had an entrepreneur that's like, oh man, my CTO quit, so I'm giving up, you shouldn't fund them, right? Because CTOs quit. People quit, right? Bad things happen in entrepreneurship, bad things happen in venture capital. You just got to power through them, all right? Now, in addition to grit and determination, venture capital is a networking game, right? So you need a network. If you don't have a network right now, or your network is very small, and there's a very easy way to measure this, how many followers you have on LinkedIn, then you've got to fix that right away. You don't have to be a superstar, but if you only have a few hundred followers on LinkedIn, and that's the modern day measurement of your network, right? You're probably not going to be a very good venture capitalist, because venture capital is all about networking. It's all about building relationships to find founders, to find limited partners. And in order to do that, you need a network. And the best way to quantify your network today is, again, that LinkedIn follower count. So even if you have a big LinkedIn follower count, and I'm sort of in the middle right now with about 37,000, 38,000 followers on LinkedIn. And I'm always like, how can I get my follower count above 40,000? How can I get my follower count above 50,000, right? So I'm thinking about it all the time because, again, it's a networking business. So you want to be sitting down every day and saying, my follower count is X. That's a measurement of my network. So what steps can I do to grow my network? And we look at LinkedIn follower count and say, is this person's network large enough to actually do a venture capital firm? Now, we've had some people say, like, look, I'm doing a clean tech fund. I've got an amazing clean tech network. And because of my clean tech network, my clean tech fund will be great. And, let's say you have 900 followers and they're all in clean tech. I would argue that that's somewhat okay, but still, let me give you the way we think about it, and I'll show you in a minute. If you're not at over 1,000 followers on LinkedIn, you're probably not ready to be a VC yet, right? That's the way I look at things. Between 1 and 2,000, you're probably like just about ready, even if it's a very concentrated, like it's all just like maybe above 2,000 starts to be good, and above 5,000 you're in really good shape. Now, some people say, well, hey, LinkedIn isn't that great, Twitter's better. I find Twitter interesting, but really the measurement of your professional network is LinkedIn. The measurement of a lot of different things is Twitter. So I would say keep going with Twitter if you're strong on Twitter, but LinkedIn is really where you measure more things like connection to real entrepreneurs, connections to real sources of capital like limited partners, institutions, et cetera. So keep doing the other things you're doing, but make sure you also are strong on LinkedIn. A second important area for your venture career is, have you done investments before? And we've done studies where we look at the most successful grads, and I can pull some of that research up. I don't want to be looking for it right now, but I can cite it, and I can show it maybe in a follow-up article that we'll be putting up. But data has shown almost undeniably that one of the highest correlations between success as a VC is how much prior investing you've done to starting the venture capital fund and firm. So if you've done 1 or 2 angel deals versus 20 or 30 angel deals, the person who's done 20 or 30 angel deals are more likely to raise more money, more likely to close a fund, and more likely to succeed as a VC. So however you can manage to get deals done, start doing deals now. Even if you need to just take small amounts of money and put it into an SPV, or take small amounts of money and try and schwangle your way into deals, it's not about, at this point in the game, necessarily how much money you deploy. It's more about your ability to do interesting deals before you start a firm and a fund. So if your track record at this moment is 0 deals, I would say, or less than 10 deals, right? Take some time and start doing deals. And really, in 2024, you don't need a lot of money to do deals, right? Because you can do SPVs for single-digit thousands. You can do even on AngelList for small amounts of money. So find a platform, find a crowdfunding platform, AngelList, SPVs, whatever. Find a way to start doing deals now, because it's so correlated to your venture success that just adding these deals will pay great dividends in terms of your ability, as I said, to attract LPs, get better returns, etc. Close the fund and pretty much every metric. Some other important areas to think about that I think take a lot of time and are important to start right away are, and so this would be number 3. And this doesn't necessarily correlate. I can go over to some things that correlate, but this is really important for your firm and your fund, is to really start working on your thesis. And we have lots of free resources to help here. So if you go to govclab.com/curriculum, and please put that link into the chat, there's a whole 4 units of work that you can do right now to start on your thesis. And I can't stress how important your thesis is. And it's much harder than people realize to do. So most people, and what we try to, let me just take a step back. So we try to get you to be able to write a 1-sentence thesis. And you can see that 1-sentence thesis format in the link provided. And a lot of people are like, well, I need a little bit more to explain my thesis. No, let me help you. If you can't say it in 1 sentence, you can't say it in a paragraph, you can't say it in a presentation, right? So it's like, first get that 1-sentence thesis. What is it you're trying to invest in? And the components of the thesis are, what's the size of the fund, the stage of the fund, the geography of the fund, and the sectors of the fund, right? Those are the 4 key components. But the hardest thing to do is really why you. So you could say, hey, I'm doing AI, a seed stage in Silicon Valley, all right? Whoa, that's pretty hot. And we're going to do a $25 million fund. All right, a little small, but doable, and large for a first-time fund. So 25 million, seed stage fund, Silicon Valley, AI. All right. What's your experience in AI? Well, I don't have no experience in AI. All right, well, then you're never going to get any money. So there's this why you component, which we refer to as the secret sauce. It's like, why are you uniquely qualified to do this fund? All right. And when you get all those components and the why you in perfect alignment, raising money becomes very easy. And I'll give you an example. Okay. Um, but I mean, there are countless examples of this. So most people don't need a presentation. They don't need anything but a good thesis. And if they have a good thesis and they go to LPs, they'll get commitments. And to give you a sense of volume, they'll get 1 in 5 to 3 in 5 limited partners that they just tell their thesis to, and nothing else, no presentation, nothing, will say, hey, I'm interested. I'd like to learn more and invest. Okay. Just on the thesis. So, and here's the example. We yesterday put out a thesis to, and you can't put your thesis out publicly. Okay. Let me make this very clear. You cannot say your thesis publicly. It is illegal. It is called general solicitation. You are not allowed as a manager to have a website, to have anything that says your thesis on it, a LinkedIn profile page for your firm that shows the thesis. If you have any of that stuff, you have to take it down. It is illegal. It is general solicitation. So if you know people and you tell them your thesis, so yesterday I sent my thesis out to people that I know. I didn't pitch them. I don't have a deck, nothing, just the thesis, okay? And in a matter of a few hours, I had about $500,000 in commitments like that, right? And with nothing, literally nothing. But hey, I am thinking to do this, right? Would you be interested in participating? And again, I knew these people, blah blah blah. So this followed the general solicitation rules, and got about $500,000 in commitments with nothing. Okay, so thesis is super important. Getting it right is super important, and it takes usually months. So if you can start now and you're like, oh, I'm gonna launch a fund. All right, great. But you got to take the time to actually work on that thesis to make it so strong that 1 in 5, 2 in 5, or 3 in 5 people that you just tell the thesis to give you money. All right. I'm going to jump right in, but I'll bring up, I guess, 2 other quick things that I'll show you. So it's a little better if I talk on camera rather than like, because I'll be a small square in the corner when I'm showing you stuff. It's not particularly beautiful. So 2 other small things, particularly that we look for in this program. Why do you want to enroll in the program? Right? Now, a lot of people actually say, I want to enroll in the program to get LPs. All right. That means that you have no idea what you're doing. That means that you are really clueless at a level that is difficult to accept, because there is no program in the world that is going to give you LPs. And if they tell you that, they're full of shit. You're being scammed. Okay, come to Sir Winston's retreat, and you'll meet tons of LPs at Sir Winston's retreat. Sir Winston's probably a scam artist. Okay, so if you want to get conned, go to Sir Winston's retreat. If you want to get LPs, you're not going to find them. All right, because again, who's going to give you hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars with no experience to invest blindly into assets? Your friends, people you know. Who's not going to give you hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars to invest sight unseen? People you don't know, random people that Sir Winston introduces you to, right? It's like, well, I've never met you before. I don't know you from a hole in a wall. You're a new manager. You've not done this before in this firm, in this fund. Maybe you've been an angel or VC before, but you've not done this before in this firm, in this fund. And so yeah, I was like, before I was, burning some money to keep warm. And now I'm just going to give you money because, hey, why not? I was just burning the money, might as well give it to you, right? Like, no. So you're going to get it from people you know. So if someone is like, listen, I'm going to give you lots of money by coming to this event or doing this or doing that, they're again bullshitting you and you're bullshitting yourself. And so if we see people who are writing in, it's like, my primary need is to meet tons of limited partners. We're like, you really have no idea what you're talking about. You have no idea what you're doing. And I don't think we can help you because there's no way we can introduce you to limited partners that are going to invest in your firm. Now, of course, we do introduce limited partners, and some of them do invest in your firm and fund, but it's not. But let me even quantify that. So eventually, my dream is one day in the far distant future, we can figure out a way that when you come into our program, 20% of your fund size will come from our network, right? I would love that, but we're far away from that. So let's say that we're good and we get you 5 LPs to come into your fund. All right. Let's say that happens. And sometimes it does happen. All right. You're probably going to need 50 to 70 or more LPs to close fund 1. So that wouldn't even be 10%. It might be 10%, but it's like, and 5 would be a great number, right? So, if you're coming to a program and you're saying like, hey, I really need to get in this program to get LPs, and that, let's say you found the magical program that actually got you LPs, and let's say they got you 5 LPs, it wouldn't even be 10% of your fund size, right? And it'd probably be smaller LPs, so it'd probably be maybe 10 or less percent of the LPs, but maybe 2 to 5% of the money, which, again, isn't a reason to go into anything or do anything, right? Because that's not like, you'd have to do lots and lots of those. First of all, no one can, 2 to 5% of the money and 10% of the LPs would be a total win. And I'm not even sure there are that many programs out there that could possibly do that. So it's just not a viable need. It's not a viable. You're going to have to learn how to get these LPs yourself because you need to know them. You have to have relationships, et cetera. The second thing is that's on the sort of important considerations that to keep in the back of your mind is we ask you to submit a video. Right. And like to some extent, like the video, it matters, right? We really weight it. Now, again, I'll show you in a second, but it's not because we want to, we really care so much about what you're saying in the video. Of course, we do care what you're saying, but we want to see how you present. Like, are there people who have sent us videos on their exercise bike? There are people who've sent us videos in like a ripped t-shirt with their camera walking down the street. And it's like, wait a minute, are you going to pitch limited partners this way? You're going to be on your exercise bike? Yeah, John, I'm launching a fund, right? Like, imagine if I was, in a t-shirt on a beach drinking and being like, yeah, what's up? Join our program. It's world class. I'm here drinking on the beach, but my program's world class. You'd be like, your program's not world class. You're like a beach bum, lazy person, right? So we care how you present, because you're going to be presenting to limited partners and asking them to trust you with their money to invest. And if you're on an exercise bike or walking down the street or whatever you're doing, and it's not like, I don't know, is this person really going to engender the trust to get millions of dollars from limited partners to invest in startups blindly? And if the answer to that is no, then you're not going to get a good score on your video, and we're probably not going to let you into the program, because like, we just don't want you making a fool of yourself in front of limited partners. So let me show you a little bit about how our scoring system works, and then we'll go over and take some questions. So the scoring system is here. So this is me. I don't have a filled in application right now. So we look at your LinkedIn and we score you. How many followers do you have? Higher scores are better, right? And as I said, over 5,000 followers is good. Then we look at your background. We look at your background on LinkedIn. We do Google searching on you, right? We do all sorts of things to research you. And then we say, look, are you a prolific investor? By the way, we look at how many investments you have, how much VC experience, how many LPs you know. And then are you like a prolific investor and exceptional background, an investor or exceptional background, and then down to like no relevant experience. I want to double click this consultant young or good background. Consultant, listen, if you're a consultant and you want to go into venture capital, I would recommend that you stop being a consultant first and then go into venture capital. But the consultant mindset and the venture mindset are like almost on the complete opposite ends of the spectrum. So a consultant's over here, a VC's over here. It's like you can't be a consultant and a VC at the same time, because as a consultant, you're trying to sell things and please people and make people happy. As a VC, you're trying to invest, which is very different. Then we talked about your thesis, and I want to highlight something about fund size. So as you can see here, your fund size, if you're doing a new fund from scratch and you want to raise over $25 million, and even $25 million is insanely difficult, I would say your odds of success are, below 5%. And I would say at $25 million, your odds of success are probably 2%. If you go up, and this is if you finish the program and everything else. So if you finish the program with a $25 million fund size, your odds of getting $25 million are 2%. So if you come in and you're like, I want to do a $50 million fund, we're like, there's no way in hell that you're going to be able to do a $50 million fund, right? It's just too hard, right? And how do we know? I think out of the 450 alumni, which includes emerging managers, people working on fund 2, fund 3, et cetera, the number of people that have gotten to a $50 million fund is less than 5. Maybe 1 or 2. So it's like well below 1%. There's some issues here. Remember, we discussed if you want LPs, that's not good. So you can see if you're asking for LPs, you're going to get a 2. But I want to talk about time. Raising a fund is hard. This is not something you can do part-time. So if you only have 40 hours a week to go build your fund, you're probably going to fail. Now, we'll give you 40 to 50, we'll give you a 4, but below that, we're going to score you pretty bad. We talked about video, and then we can also give you other rates. So this is how our rating systems work on the back end to give you some insights. Now, I know we're running out of time here, but so let me leave you with some things to think about, and then I'll turn it over to questions. I believe that every single city in the world that is a major city in the world should have a thriving venture capital ecosystem, which means that there are funding accelerators, there are seed funds, pre-seed funds, there's Series A funds, and there are later stage funds. And they're not just one of them in each category, but you might have 5 to 10 accelerators, 5 to 10 pre-seed funds, 5 to 10 seed funds, maybe, 2 to 5 Series A funds, and a handful of growth funds. Most cities in the world don't have any of this. They may have some funding accelerators and maybe 1 or 2 VCs. So a fully functioning venture ecosystem in a city should have 50 to 100 firms between all the categories that I just brought up. All right. Most cities in the world have 0. Most major cities in the world have 0. A lot of maybe 40 or so % will have a few. And then, 10% will have kind of more of a functioning venture ecosystem of the cities in the world. So there is a lot of room for new managers to enter the market. But in order to succeed, right, you have to, and I believe there's enough companies, there's enough demand right now for venture ecosystems to be everywhere. But in order to succeed, to launch those firms and funds, you have to take the endeavor of building them seriously. This is not something that you can do without proper preparation. It's not something that you can do without work, without a network. So we're here to help. And I can tell you, we have made it. There are many talented managers with hugely successful firms and funds that literally say, I wouldn't be able to do it if it weren't for VC Lab. And we've definitely made it happen. But it's not going to happen if you don't put the time, the effort, and the work in. And we're here to help, and we'll make it a lot easier. But as I said in the beginning, we can make it majorly easy, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. So it's like climbing Mount Everest naked if you go alone in the world and try and launch a VC firm versus climbing Mount Everest with good gear, a Sherpa. People die with all the gear, the Sherpa, and everything else. There's a path to Mount Everest is littered with dead people, all right, who had all the preparation and gear in the world. You would never climb Mount Everest naked unless maybe you were Wim Hof. But with that said, we're going to give you all the gear, the Sherpa, and everything else, but you still have to be prepared. Okay, so let's take some questions, everyone. I see there's some chat, there's some questions. I'd like to I'll do your specific applications and I'll do questions. So let's start with, and if you want your application done or you have a question, there's a Q&A at the bottom. Pop it in the Q&A and we'll help. So I run an angel syndicate likely to complete 10 to 15 deals this year. Hanish is saying, what is my probability of starting a VC fund in the future? Well, I would say that's a good sign, right? But they are apples and oranges. Angel deals and angel syndicates and venture capital funds are very different. Now, we've had almost all of the people that run anything successful on AngelList in terms of syndicates, et cetera, have migrated and are now running their firms and their funds with VC Lab. So they left AngelList because they reached a certain... AngelList is like a prosumer platform. So AngelList is like amateur and prosumer. And when you level up to the top of the prosumer, so you're doing lots of deals, the deals are doing well, it's like a glass ceiling on AngelList. So then people want to then say, okay, I want to do my own thing. I want to own the fund. I want to own the management company. And AngelList is trying to say, oh, we can do that too. But it's like, again, would you go to, you don't go to the major leagues right from the little leagues. There's a whole bunch of steps that you do before you get there. And similarly, like it's very difficult. AngelList is like the little leagues. So when people want to start the journey to begin a fund, they come to us. Now, it gives them a good leg up, but it is very difficult and different. So I would say your literal probability of success is probably if you came in cold and you're one of the 2,500 people that apply, and I brought up it's less than 2% that you'll get to a fund at the end. I would say if you're running a successful syndicate, your odds probably increase to about 10%. So I'd say you have a 10% chance if it's a successful syndicate. If it's not a successful syndicate, maybe 5%. So could someone archive that question for me or make me a host, please, Ben or Sheila? This is from Nizar. So guys, if you could make me a host thank you. Thanks for hosting today's session. It's very informative, a few questions. So generally speaking, guys, if you have questions, ask one at a time. Is it easier to launch a fund of funds or a hybrid fund? I would say definitely a fund of funds. Anything hybrid, you're going to fail. Fund one is super hard, and you have to be very focused in your thesis. You can't do 5 things or 2 things or 3 things. You have to do one thing. You're like, I'm launching a fund of funds, or I'm launching a fund to back XYZ. So focus is critical. The second question is, how is VC Lab funded? So VC Lab is free. The program is free. And everything we do to help the community of venture capitalists is free. So we're a venture funded company, but we're doing very well. We have revenue. So what we do is so we're not like freemium or anything like that. Okay. So there's no like upsell or anything like that. When you are ready to start your fund, we have a back office platform called Decil Hub, which is actually also free. And we have a formation service and a back office service. The formation and the back office are premium. No matter where you go in the world, you're going to pay for formation and back office. You need lawyers, accountants, and the like. What we've done is we've gone out and found the best lawyers, the best accountants, etc. We've bundled it for a fixed price. It's cheaper than everyone else. It's cheaper than AngelList, cheaper than Carta, cheaper than all this. But we don't do it for everybody. You have to be the best of the best. You have to apply. And then that's how we make money. And any tips on building a network? Yeah, you got to go. You're not going to get VC mentors. VCs don't mentor other VCs because how do you build a network of VC mentors? Okay. Nobody knows how to start venture capital firms and funds except us. All right. So if you go and ask another VC, how many firms have they started? 1. So you really think you're going to learn from someone who started 1? No, because frankly, they got lucky, right? But we've started 450. No one else in the world has started anywhere near that amount of firms and funds. Okay. It's not even close. So, if you ask a VC, they'll be like, yeah, I'll tell you how I started my 1 firm. And you're like, oh, I'm going to learn a lot from that, said no one ever. We've started 450. Okay. So we know more than 450 other firms on how to start firms and funds. So you're kind of, excuse you're shit out of luck if you're looking to ask for mentors, because they'll mentor you. I got lucky. Listen, when I started my firm, I got really lucky. Let me tell you how lucky I got. It's like, you're not going to learn anything, right? Just to be blunt. All right. Is there any special considerations or tips you can point out for VCs based in developing countries? Yeah, it's even harder. So in a developing market, only about half the people that tell you they're going to invest actually invest. So if you have 10 people that say they're going to give you 100 grand, 5 of them will come in. So it's quite a bit harder. So you basically have to do twice the number of pitching to get a commitment, and then twice the number of commitments to get to the target. So if you wanted to close on $1 million, you'd need to have $2 million in commitments to get to that million. So, you know, it's twice the amount of work. You know, it's not quite twice the amount. I mean, it is twice the amount of work, but the math is a little more convoluted than I explained, because if you're doing it in a developed market, so in like the West, for example, like America, 70% to 80% of people that tell you that they're going to commit actually commit. And it's only like 50% or a little less in developed markets. So, but you need to pitch more people to get there. So it ends up being about twice the amount of work. You answered most of my questions. I feel much more clear. So thank you, Erin. And then Erin asked about her application. So let me look up your application. I'll give you some feedback. If you have questions, everyone, please get them in the chat. We got a minute left. I'll try and do one more, but I'll look up Erin right now. And while we wait, so give me 1 second. I'll look you up. Here we go. Okay. So we score everything 1 to 5, and you got a 2. Don't worry, that's not terrible. Tons of people, I would say the most score is a 2. So it's 1 to 5. We generally don't score people 3s, so we rate people 1 to 5, no 3s. So 2 is super common. So the problems with your application, so you didn't have a ton of followers. You didn't have a ton of relevant experience for your thesis. And so that was part of the concern, right? Your fund was too big. Now, let me see. Yeah, okay. It wasn't that it's too big. So I think you wrote 10 million. But I don't want to go into your thesis because you're not allowed to talk about a thesis publicly, but it's kind of all over the map just looking at it. And you don't want to boil the ocean with your thesis. You want to be very specific. So you didn't score particularly well on the thesis. You didn't have enough time. You're talking about only 10 to 20 hours a week, and the video wasn't super professional. So the combination of those things gave you a 2, and it's hard to get in with a 2. So we do let some 2s in. We're not like strict on the number rating system, and that we're like, oh, they're a 2, they'll never get in. So we do review the 2s and we let 2s in, but it's a harder burden to get in if you have a 2 compared to people that are 4s and 5s. So what normally happens is we fill the program with 4s and 5s to the point where we have, almost the entire program full. And then we start letting in the 2s. Yes, there's a hand up there from one of my coworkers. I'm not sure if it's Ben or Sheila.
Yep, just checking the time.
Do we have to jump? What?
Yeah, we've got the webinar next, or the AMA next.
Is it at this time right now at 9?
Yep, it is.
All right, everybody. Sorry. Oh, it's 9. We got to go, everyone. Thank you so much. I wish there were more questions. I see questions came in the last minute. Hopefully this was helpful. Lovely to chat with everyone. Thanks, guys. Bye, everyone.